Hey, Grande Alive! This is Coffee with Will, brought to you by Ronde Hospital, Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Anything Too Digital, EONI, Valley Realty, Schwab Tire, and Country Financial. And today I'm here with Matt Cooper, who is an EOU professor and a local musician, and he's going to chat with me a little bit about professorship, musicianship, and how they fit together. So thank you, Matt, for joining me here on Coffee with Will today. We've been trying to make this happen for a couple weeks, and in Will's scrubbiness, typical scrubbiness, I double booked on him last week, but we finally got him into the studio to chat about music. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into music, Matt.
Well, when I was 5 years old, my brother was taking piano lessons, and I used to be annoying little kid and sit at his his elbow.
You were an annoying little kid?
He's even more annoying
I
than
was
I am
an annoying
now.
little kid too.
Yeah, and I would learn his songs by ear, and then I would sit down at the piano, play them note for note. So then I would go to Doug's lesson, and his piano teacher asked me, do you think you should have piano lessons? So I said, sure,
why
what
not?
the heck? So that's how it started.
Oh, wow.
Long ago. And when I was in high school, I was in the choir, and they had a swing choir, and so I ended up playing for the swing choir. And our high school had a really good jazz band, jazz choir program. We used to compete at Mount Hood and all those places, and so it was an excellent program. I had really good people in there with me.
Now, was your high school around here?
High school in Eugene, South Eugene.
Oh, Eugene,
yeah.
Very cool.
Mike Denny, who teaches jazz guitar at U of O, and Frank Griffith, who's a saxophonist in the UK, and his sister Jenny, who's a composer in New York, and they're all my classmates. So I was just in with this really great cohort of people, and so we all learned from each other. We used to do little gigs around town and whatnot. And meanwhile, I was studying studying lessons.
Yeah, so that's something that's kind of interesting to me about you. Now, Matt is a teacher of classic up at EOU, correct? You teach the piano
but
as well?
I have jazz piano students too.
Oh, okay. So but he's also a very proficient jazz musician. And so I guess my question is how do jazz and classical, two musical styles who many people would say are very far, distinct from each other, how do those two fit together?
Well, I'll tell you a story. One night I had a gig with a famous jazz educator named Jamie Aebersold. And
I don't know that person,
anyway,
but I am a horrible person to ask about music stuff.
You would be famous if you were a student of jazz music or a consumer of jazz educational materials.
So for all of you jazz freaks out there,
Jamie Aebersold. Look him up.
up.
Anyway, so I had a gig one night with Jamie Aebersold. He's a very fine saxophonist, and I was apologizing because I hadn't been playing a lot of jazz. I was in a graduate school program and just got this one night gig with Jamie, and I said, "Oh, Jamie, I'm really sorry. I'm kind of rusty on my jazz stuff, and I've been playing all this classical music." And he said, "Well, I think they use the same 12 notes."
Did he say it exactly like that?
Pretty much.
Very cool. So how did that kind of influence your take on classical and jazz and all that kind of stuff?
I don't know if that one conversation had that much impact, but they do use the same 12 notes. And the only difference is that jazz is mostly improvised. Of course, there's stylistic differences, but all the great classical musicians were improvisers too.
I guess that's true.
Especially back before, around 1900 or the early 20th century. They were all wonderful improvisers. We just don't happen to have any, CD. Bach didn't make any CDs, unfortunately.
So how does the improvisation sort of affect the musical style that someone would kind of come out with? Like how does improvisation fit in there?
Fit into classical music?
Well, just in music in general. Like how does it influence, how does it influence the way people write music?
Well, some of Bach's music is very improvisatory. Some particular pieces, the toccata-like pieces are really written out improvisations. So it might give us an idea what Bach might have sounded like if there had been CD, if we could have recorded him on CD.
So, is improvisation like a core of musical creation, or is it just something that some people do?
Improvisation is lightning fast composition, and composition is frozen improvisation. So they are both.
Could you say that one more time?
So improvisation is sped up composition. Composition is frozen improvisation.
Huh. That's interesting. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. Because do you find that you have more creativity when you're improvising?
It depends on what you call creativity. I mean, I suppose in terms of coming up with new ideas, of new phrases or new notes, then yeah. I mean, some people would say that classical musicians are also very creative in the way that they look at a score or interpret a score. So there's a lot of room for creativity in that kind of field as well.
Okay, cool.
But there's a lot less leeway in terms of sort of changing the notes, depending on what kind of music you're playing.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit more like structured.
So yeah, there's a lot more structure. You're assumed that you're going to play the composer's piece.
Yeah, for sure. So do you find that maybe like your jazz influences your classical and your classical influences your jazz? Like, is there crossover there?
I tend to think of them as fairly separate. Although I'll tell you another story. I was on a concert with a guy named John Salmon, who teaches at University of North Carolina, and he is someone who improvises in the classical style. He'll play a Beethoven sonata and improvise in the style of Beethoven on the repeats of the sonata. So I don't know if this answers your question at all, but it is a good story.
It is a good story,
so,
exactly.
Anyway, he went to my concert one night, and I played a Beethoven Variations, and then the next night he played his concert, and he played a Beethoven sonata, and in the repeat of this Beethoven sonata, he incorporated part of the Variations theme that I played, just with a little sort of like wink and nod.
Just like he's playing
Beethoven,
sure he worked it out. And
yes.
then like he just, throws that in there.
Yeah, in other words, he did a variation on the repeat. There's a repeated section of the sonata. It's called the exposition of the sonata is always repeated. And composers probably would have played it differently. Beethoven, I imagine, would have, being a great improviser, would have probably done something different on repeat. So John Salmon takes that to the extreme and actually does play different notes. So he incorporated this little Turkish march into his repeat because he knew I was in the audience, and so it was a little inside joke. But so there are people who, in the classical music world, they're fairly rare, who do incorporate improvisation even into something as seemingly staid as Beethoven.
Oh my gosh. Like, I can't even imagine having the musical ability not only to play Beethoven, but then also to be able to just, improv Beethoven.
Exactly. Yeah,
just,
that's...
on a night's notice. Like,
yes, exactly.
There you go, buddy. That one was for you.
And that's John Salmon, who's just like, he also plays Dave Brubeck quite a bit. So he is a jazz player himself.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
He's kind of a Brubeck specialist, actually.
I believe you. I don't know who Brubeck is, but again, all you jazz fanatics out there.
Take 5, Dave Brubeck.
John Brubeck. So now that all kind of being said, like, you're a teacher up at EOU. So how does teaching kind of fit in with your love for jazz and for classical? Do you feel like it heightens it? I mean, is it just kind of a method that you use to do it? Like, how does that fit in?
Teaching's always connects in some ways, and the same problems that I might have in working on my own pieces or preparing a recital or a jazz gig or whatever, I'm going to have the same problems that my students are going to have. And so I sometimes, to solve that problem, when I'm practicing, sometimes I ask myself, well, how would I teach this? And sometimes it helps me sort of get answers that I wouldn't come up with otherwise. So
you sometimes use your teaching to like bolster your own composition?
To teach myself how to solve problems. I mean, if I were going to have a student with the same problem, how would I help them?
Interesting. Gotcha.
It's a little bit like physician, heal thyself.
you gotta be learning how to do the thing yourself if you're going to teach it to other people.
Right.
For sure.
Exactly.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of like what I kind of want to ask you with this teaching thing. Do you find that? How did you get into teaching? Like, how did you get into that? Like, going from someone who was in Eugene playing, consistently, how did you go into teaching?
Well, I had a really good piano pedagogy teacher at U of O, Doris Allen. She was a student of Francis Clark at the New School for Piano Pedagogy in Westminster Choir College, and she was wonderful. And I didn't think I had any interest in teaching piano. I thought, but I had to take this class. As an undergraduate, you had to take 2 terms of piano pedagogy. So there I was. And so Doris convinced me that I did have some capacity for teaching. Yeah. And of course, it's a long road from taking a class in pedagogy to actually having any chops teaching.
Teaching, yeah,
but
exactly.
I think, people who come out graduate programs often do end up in teaching careers, for better or worse. Hopefully I figured out a few things along the way over the years. I'm certainly a lot better now at it than I was when I graduated in 1994.
Very cool. But you've continued to play. I mean, your teaching hasn't sort of got canceled out. You're performing and those. I mean, you're in the band. Remind me of the name with your wife.
Sharon Porter and Matt Cooper. Oh,
that's probably a good name for it.
Yeah.
And then you have some other bands that you're in as well.
Yeah, she also has a band called Porter and the Pale Ales.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
So now, that being said, maybe what do you guys what are your current projects that you're working on?
We don't have anything currently, any big projects. We just came out with a CD, we released it this summer, called Two for the Road, and it's been doing well, and we've got boxes of it for sale, of course.
Of course.
But it is available on CD Baby online and local outlets, and it's gotten a few reviews, and we've gotten some airplay on the East Coast and in Amsterdam at an internet radio station. And she was actually on a playlist with some of the greats of vocal jazz like Blossom Dearie and Gregory Porter and Cecile McLaurin-Salvant and a bunch of other great jazz vocalists, and she was on the same playlist. Our album was on the same playlist, so we were pretty pleased about that. But we don't have any plans to do anything new. We're just hoping to ride this wave for a while.
trying to perform the thing that you've already made.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And market it, of course, which is half the battle with anything.
Yes, that is very, very true in whatever artistic discipline that you're in. So I guess one of my last questions for you will be you being a teacher and being a musician. There's a lot of people out there who are students or young musicians kind of coming up. What's one piece of advice that you would give someone to help them to succeed in music, whether that be as a student or whether that be as a musician?
Well, I'd always say give it 10 years of your life, work really hard for 10 years of your life if you really want to do it, and see where you end up. It takes a long, long time to be really, really good at it. And I think younger people tend not to understand that going in.
It's like the 10,000
hour. The 10,000 hours,
yeah.
right. I think that whole 10,000 hours thing is really true about anything. Give it 10,000 hours and then reassess. See if you still want to do it.
Wow, that's a lot of hours to give to something that's a big maybe. Wow. Okay, so put in the legwork.
Put in the time, yeah, and then see if you still love it after that. Maybe it's for you.
Wow. All right then. Well, do you have anything else you'd like to add, Matt?
No, Will, this is wonderful. This is great coffee here. We're having coffee from the Marketplace Family Foods.
From the Marketplace Family Foods. We normally have Starkey Coffee that provides the coffee, but today we did have to. It is good coffee. It's Buck and Bean from
Buck and Bean, okay.
Or something like
all right.
that. Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you so much, Matt, for
My
coming
pleasure.
in and chatting with me
Cheers.
about music. And thank you, Grande Live. This has been Coffee with Will and Matt Cooper, brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Grande Ronde Hospital, Anything to Digital, EONI, Valley Realty, Country Financial, and Schwab Tire Center. Please like and share the video and tune into LaGrandeLive.tv for more local content. I'm Will Bauman.